Good morning, students. Welcome to the online class of Little Flower School, Rapti Nagar. I'm Amit Kumar, your computer science teacher, and this video lecture is for class 12th A and 12th B. So, students, I hope you all have gone through the lecture on arrays. That was the session 1, and in that lecture we have actually introduced you array, and basically our main focus was to tell you the updated syllabus of 12th ISC board, which has been reduced due to COVID-19 situation. So I hope you have gone through that, and today we are going to proceed with our lecture on arrays itself. See, the topics that we are going to discuss today, I hope you have gone through the thumbnail and you are knowing about the topics. Still I am telling you the topics that we will discuss today would be memory address calculation of single dimensional array. Actually this certain topic is not part of your syllabus, but I am telling you because you should know this before we proceed with 2D array. And the next topic is two-dimensional array. We will have an introduction about it. We will see a logical representation of 2D array, how it is represented logically. We will also see a sample program of 2D array. It would be a very simple program, and these types of programs, they generally don't ask in examinations, but I'm just going to give you a short program on 2D array so that you can have an idea how we deal with 2D array, and of course you will have an idea of an application of 2D array as well. Then we will see memory representation of 2D array. We will discuss about memory address calculation of 2D array, and of course we will see two sample questions for memory address calculation of 2D array. So these will be the topics that we are going to discuss today. As far as programming is concerned, we are not focusing too much on programming of 2D array today. That part we will discuss tomorrow on 22nd of August, and we will see some of the programs that they have asked in board examinations. So without wasting any time further, let's proceed with today's lecture. So as you know that first of all we are going to discuss about memory address calculation of single dimensional array, and after discussing this topic, one more thing would be clear to you. Sometimes students used to ask me, sir, why we start indexing in an array from 0, why can't we start indexing it from 1? So first of all, let me tell you, we are not the one who is providing any index to the array. It's the compiler which provides the index, and we are accessing that specific index. Now the question is, why compiler starts indexing from 0, not from 1? So you will understand this as soon as you will go through this certain topic. Actually I have written here, actually in memory only the base address of the array is referred by the array name, and once an index is passed to it, then that specific address of the index is obtained with following formula. So one thing should be clear to you, that array is collection of data, and all these memory locations are consecutive memory locations. So they are stored consecutively in memory. So suppose if I am creating an integer type of array of size 10, so definitely it will store 10 locations in memory, and those 10 locations will be definitely 10 consecutive locations in the memory. Now the question over here is, out of those 10 consecutive locations, because array is a reference type, to which certain location that array name will refer, because it cannot refer to more than one location at the same time, right? So it can refer to only one location. So if I am having 10 different locations, if I am having 10 different memories, to which certain memory location that array name will point to. Now let me tell you, the array will always point to the base address. Okay, in Java, array is very special. Whenever we create an array, it automatically inherits the arrays class. Okay, and it becomes an object of that class, and this certain object will refer to only the base address out of all the addresses available in the memory. Now you will understand this after this diagram. Suppose if I created an integer type of array like this, if I created an integer type of array of location 7, of size 7, so definitely it will store 7 locations in memory like this, right? And we know it will start indexing from 0, so the last index will be size minus 1, that would be 6. Now there are 7 different locations, and each location is having an address. So this is nothing but the address in the memory. and make sure that it's not necessary that every time it will start from 1014. I have chosen some random values over here to represent those memory addresses. So there will be definitely 7 different memory addresses, but this array will only point to the base address, and base address is the address of the first location of the array. So right now here the first location is 1014, so that would be the base address, and array will point to that address only. Now the question is, if array is pointing to that specific address only, how come it will know about a specific address of these elements? Suppose I want to store value at this location, how this array will come to know the address of this location, right? So and of course why it is starting with 0. So it's all because the array is working on this formula. Now you can see the formula over here. Formula is address of I index is equals to b plus s into I, where b is the base address, s is size of data type, and I is index. Now you will understand this. I will solve this formula for this array, but you will understand this after understanding one more thing. We know that right now we have created an integer type of array, and each integer variable stores 4 bytes in memory. Okay, so that's why I have started with 1014, and the next location is 1018. It's not 1015, though it is consecutive location, but it is 1018. Why? Because this location is integer type, so it will store 4 bytes. So 1014, 1015, 1016 and 1017 are the 4 locations which are the 4 bytes which are stored in this location. Hence each location will be of 4 bytes. So the next consecutive location will be 1018, then the next one will be 1022, 1026, 1030, 1034, 1038 and so on. So of course size of the data type is important, and index that we use to pass to it. Now the first question, why it always starts with 0 index? So to calculate address of any certain index, now suppose if we are accessing array 4th element, okay, 4th index, then its address can be calculated by this formula. Now how you can calculate the address? Now here the value of the index is 4, so I is 4. So formula says, so what will be the address of 4th index, right? What will be the address of this index? So the base address, that is 1014, plus size, which is 4 bytes right now, into the index, which is 4. So that will give you 1014 plus 16, and of course 1014 plus 16 will result into 1030. Okay, so according to this formula, the address of 4th index will be 1030, and let's see whether we are right or not. So you can see address of 4th index is 1030. And your question was why we start with 0th index. So let's check the address of 0th index. So that will be 1014 plus size into 0. 4 into 0 will be 0, and that is 1014 itself. Because the first index is referring to the base address and we are working on this formula, that's why the first index is always 0, so that we can get the base address as the output for that value. So this is how this is how a single dimensional array works. It stores in memory and consecutive memory locations. The array will point to only the base address, and address of any specific index can be calculated with this formula. And of course one more question is answered over here, is why we always start with 0th index. But I told you this is not the part of the syllabus, no one will ask you about this formula, but you should know how an array works. Okay, now let's proceed with the next topic. The next topic for the day is two-dimensional array. Now the first question itself is, what is a two-dimensional array? I know you have gone through two-dimensional array in class 10th, you have studied it in class 11th as well, but some of you are still not having the idea of two-dimensional array. That's why I am explaining the definition. A two-dimensional array is the simplest form of multi-dimensional array. See, we can have single-dimensional or multi-dimensional array. Now in multi-dimensional array, there can be 2-dimension, 3-dimension or 4-dimensional array, and all are allowed in Java. Now the thing is, only 2-dimensional array is part of our syllabus, so we will not work with 3-dimensional or 4-dimensional array. while we are working with multi-dimensional, we will only work with two-dimensional array, which is the simplest form of multi-dimensional array. And what is a 2D array? A 2D array is an array in which each element itself is a single dimensional array. We know that in a single dimensional array, each element is a location, each element is a memory location, and in other words, you can say each element itself is a variable. But in case of a multi-dimensional array, each element itself, especially 2D array, in case of 2D array, each element itself is a single dimensional array. So suppose if we want to store collection of data, we will have a single dimensional array. But if we want to store collection of arrays, then we will take a 2D array. So if you want to create a 2D array of integer type, then the statement would look like, so I have written a sample statement over here. It doesn't mean like always you have to write like this statement. You can create a double type of 2D array, a character type of 2D array, a string type of 2D array, whatsoever. And it is not also compulsory that you have to pass 3, 5 only. So there you can pass any value, you can pass any integer value in those two locations. But what this means, what is the meaning of this line, that I am going to explain you. So that's why I have taken a sample value here to explain. So here 3 represents that this 2D array is composed of 3 single dimensional array. Okay, because 3 is written over there. The first integer value that we specify over there is actually telling you how many single dimensional array are there. And 5 represents that each single dimensional array is composed of 5 elements. So that means we are having 3 single dimensional array, each with 5 elements. Got that? So you will understand it once you see the logical representation of it. So I have shown you the logical representation over here for the same declaration. So if I am having an array of a 2D array with name ARR with 3 rows and 5 columns. So these are rows and these are columns. So that's just against the way you used to refer in your classroom, right? In your classroom, suppose you enter in a classroom, these are referred as rows and these are referred as columns. But in real life, the horizontal ones are rows and the vertical ones are columns. Okay, so there are 3 rows, each having index 0, 1 and 2, and there are 5 columns, each having index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now suppose if I want to store value here at this location, so the index of this location will be 0, 2, the index of row will be 0, the index of column will be 2. And similarly, if I want to store value at this location, the index will be 1, 3. Okay, the index of row will be 1 and the index of column will be 3. So what will be the index of this one? Of course 2, 2. What would be the index of this one? Of course 1, 0. Okay, so I hope you will easily refer to that specific index of each element in this 2D array. Now what I have written in the box, actually I have written the addresses, okay, the memory addresses, though it will not show it to you. Memory addresses are not visible to us, especially in languages like Java. We can see memory addresses in languages like C and C++, but it is not possible to see memory addresses in Java like this. But I am telling you for an example, because I have created an integer type of array. It will take 4 bytes, so each location will be of 4 bytes, and if I am starting with 1000, the next location will be 1004, then 1008, then 1012, then 1016, then 1020. So after 1016 it is 1020. That means this, after this location, this is the next location. So this is the next consecutive location of this, and this is the next consecutive location of this. That's why I am saying it is logical representation. In memory it won't look like this, it won't look like a table, it won't look like with number of rows and columns. I will show you how in memory it is represented, but this is the logical representation of array, the array that we want. So you can see there are 3 single dimensional array, right? This is a single dimensional array, this is a single dimensional array, and this also is a single dimensional array. So it is collection of 3 single dimensional array. That's why it is a 2D array, where each single dimensional array is of 5 elements. You know, in Java there is a special kind of 2D array known as jagged array. Right now we have created a 2D array where each single dimensional array will have the same number of elements. But jagged array is collection of single dimensional array where each single dimensional array can have different number of elements. So though jagged array is not part of our syllabus, we will not discuss about it. Okay. So this is how logically a 2D array is represented. Now the thing is, let's see a sample program of 2D array. and then after you will realize how we create a 2D array, how we initialize a 2D array, and of course how we are going to access them. So suppose if we are working on 2D array and if we are working in real life, you can relate it with matrix. All the 12th A student can easily relate it with matrix. Though 12B students, I have also studied about matrix in class 10th, I think. So you can relate it with a matrix. A matrix is written in a tabular form, so you can relate with the matrix. And whenever we are writing or dealing with a matrix, the normal approach or the traditional approach of dealing it is row wise. So if we are storing value in this matrix, we will store it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatsoever the values are. Right? Similarly, we will go to the, so first of all we will fill all the columns of the first row, then we will fill all the columns of the second row, and then we will fill all the columns of the third row. So if you will relate it with pattern printing, you know we are having a nested loop over there where outer loops are for rows or the number of lines, and inner loops are for columns or the values in each line. So if you are accessing a 2D array, if you want to access a 2D array with code, you can definitely use a nested loop to access it, to enter the value in it, to access the value from it. And that's why the program that I am going to deal with right now, there in this program I will take help of a nested loop. Now let's see what the program is asking from us. The program is saying, write a program to accept names of 3 students and their marks in 5 subjects. So we will accept names of 3 students, okay, and their marks in 5 subjects. So each student will have 5 subjects. So definitely we can create a 2D array with 3, 5 as dimension, where 3 rows and 5 columns. Each row will represent each student and each column will represent marks of each subject for one student. Okay, so and here I will also create a single dimensional array to store the names of the student. We have to print the marks of the students, okay, with their names. So it's a very simple program. We have to accept names and marks, and we have to display names and marks. But the main thing is how to access 2D array, so that we are going to understand with it. So let's see, sorry for that. So let's see. So for that I am creating students marks. Okay, I am creating this class, and inside this class I am going to work with 3 students and their 5 subjects. So class student marks. Okay, as there are 3 students, I will create a string type of array for names. So names, and I know there are 3 students, so let it be, I am declaring it earlier only. And we need marks also, so marks can be in real numbers also, but I am taking an integer right now to make it simple only. So marks, it would be a 2D array, and marks for 3 students in 5 subjects. Okay, now I will create a method accept, and I will create another method display. So accept will only accept the values and display will only display the values. I hope you got this. Now in accept we need help of scanner so that we can take value, and here I am dealing with integer as well as with string. So what I will do here is I will always accept in form of string, okay, and whenever I needed it to be in integer I will pass it into integer. So that is the safest way while we are dealing with the with scanner and we are dealing with 2 different data types together, especially when one of them is a string. Okay, so first of all I need marks, I need names, and I need marks. So first of all let me take names of 3 students. So enter names of 3 students. And I will run a loop. And here all that I need to do is to store the names at the ith index. So scan dot next line. Fine. Now I need to accept marks. So again I will run this, as 3 students are there, so outer loop will run for 3 times, and this is to represent the index of rows, and then I will run an inner loop that will represent the index of columns. So index of columns will definitely start from 0 less than 5. Here if I want to tell the user that whose marks you are entering, so I will write enter marks of, and student name I can enter there because I have already accepted the student name Sai. Okay, and there I can accept marks because this will run for 5 times. So marks ith, jth. Okay, so for I as 0, j will run from 0 to 4, so 0 0 0 1 0 2 0 3 0 4, like that. Okay, and I told you I will take help of wrapper class, as I'm always taking in string, so that will guarantee that this will work all the time. So see, in accept I have accepted marks of 5 subjects of all the 3 students. Now the thing is I have to display it. Okay, so we need this loop one more time. I'm just copy pasting it. Okay, now we need not to enter anything, so we will remove this. I will just print student name, and let's print few equals to symbol over there just for show, and it will also guarantee that each marks will be displayed separately. Okay, and I'm using one more println. See, both these println that I am writing right now are part of the outer loop. So this will be printed for one student only. That means for 3 students this will be printed for 3 times, and this will be printed for 3 times. So here I will not accept anything. Instead of that I will print marks. So system.out.println. Okay, and I will write subject number. So for subject number I am using j plus 1, because j will start with 0. So for 0 it will print 1, for 1 it will print 2, so for 4 it will print 5. Subject 1, subject 2, subject 3, subject 4, subject 5. For that's why I have used j plus 1, because in real life we start counting from 1, but in arrays index start counting from 0. So that's why I have used j plus 1, and all that I need to print is the marks. So I and j, and that's it. So right now we need not to do anything. All that we need to do is to accept marks and display marks. I hope you will you understood how I have used this nested loop for accessing this array. Let's see the output of this program. So I'm just compiling it. So it's already compiled. I'm creating an object of it, and now I'm calling the accept method. So enter names of 3 students. So let me enter the names. So let it be Amit Kumar. I will enter my name first. Let it be Smith Benjamin, and let it be Jashil Das. Okay, so it's asking marks of Amit Kumar. So definitely I scored really well. Who will stop getting me marks? So as soon as I entered my marks, it's asking enter marks of Smith Benjamin. So let me give him 100 in each subject. Okay, he will be very happy. Jashil Das, he also scored really well, but in some of the subjects he can't focus, so that's why he scored a little less. So see, I have entered marks of all the 3 students. Now it's time to display them. So let's click on the display, and you see this is the output. You got that? Output of each student along with their subject marks. So this is just a sample program to tell you that how or where can you use, okay, where can you use this 2D array. So suppose if like here, if I am storing marks of, suppose I am working with sales executives, I am storing names of all the sales executives, and then I am storing their sales per month. right, for a year. So definitely, suppose there are 10 sales executives and I am storing their sales for a year. So there will be a 2D array. We will require a 2D array with 10 rows and 12 columns. 10 rows will represent each sales executive and 12 columns will represent each month. Okay, so I hope you got this. And this was just a sample program to tell you how to work on it. I will provide you the code of this program as well. So I'm just copying it and pasting it in our notes. I will attach this notes along with your today's lecture. You can get it from the LMS. Okay, so we have seen how to access the 2D array and we have seen one implementation of it also. Let's see how 2D arrays are represented in memory. So we have already seen how it is represented logically to us, but the thing how it is represented in memory is still to be discussed. As I told you, the way we see a 2D array or the way we deal a 2D array is not the way in which it is stored in memory. So for a 2D array with following values, let's see a 2D array with these values. So 3 rows and 5 columns again, and the values are 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 up to 24 consecutively. But if we are storing it in the memory, in memory it can be stored in either of the two ways. There are two ways to store these values, to store this array in memory. The first way is row major implementation, the second way is column major implementation. If we are having a row major implementation, okay, the same array would look like this: 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So from 10 to 24 like this, and I already shown you, right, that these are consecutive memory locations. So after 15, the next location, after 14, the next location is 15, and I have shown you the memory address of it. So these are consecutive memory locations. Of course, this is also consecutive memory locations, but this is the case when it is stored column major wise. So in column major wise, the value will be 10, 15, 20, 11, 16, 21, 12, 17, 22, 13, 18, 23, 14, 19, 24. So if you will see in this, if we are storing row major wise, it will be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 consecutively like that. And if we are storing column major wise, it will be 10, 15, 20, 11, 16, 21, 12, 17, 22, 13, 18, 23, 14, 19, 24. Sometimes in board examinations, they can give you a 2D array like this and they can ask you to show the memory representation of the 2D array in row major or column major wise. So I hope you can easily deal now. Okay, now memory address calculation of 2D array. As in case of single dimensional array, we understood that it will only refer to the base address, right? Here also in 2D array memory representation, I have shown you that there is a base address, the first location address, and array will point to the base address only. So how it will come to know, about any specific address of any specific index. So in case of 2D array also, the array name will only refer to the base address, and hence it also uses formula to calculate address of any specific element of the array. Okay, so if you want to know the address, or if the compiler wants to know the address of any specific element of the array, we need to pass index of that element, and according to the index and the formula that is following, it calculates the address of that specific index. Now as in memory, a 2D array can have row major or column major implementation. Hence there are two formulas to calculate the address of any location. So as I told you that in memory it is represented row major wise or column major wise. So there are two different formulas to calculate that. If you will see the formula, actually I have written a bit differently as it is given in your book. As the formula is same, it's not changed, but I have written bit differently so it would be easy for you to understand. See, there is a b plus s that will always be there, and it's there in both the formulas. There is I minus LR and J minus LC, which is there in both the formulas, I minus LR, J minus LC. But in case if we are working with row major implementation, C is multiplied with I minus LR, and if we are working with column major representation, R is multiplied with J minus LC. I will come on to this formula after you understand what this B, I, J and all that. So here B represents the base address, S represents the size of data type, R represents the number of rows, and C represents the number of columns. In case in examination they provide you about the number of rows and number of columns, so it's very easy, no need to worry about it. But in case if they haven't mentioned, you can calculate the number of rows or you can calculate the number of columns by this formula. Okay, what is this formula? I am coming on that, don't worry. I is index of row, J is index of column, LR is the lowest index of row, LC is the lowest index of column. Definitely UR is upper index of row and UC is upper index of column. So to calculate number of rows, upper index of row minus lower index of row plus 1. Similarly, to calculate number of columns, upper index of column minus lower index of column plus 1. So this is how you calculate the number of rows and number of columns if it is not given in the formula. And if we see the formula for now, what we are doing in the formula, we are subtracting the lowest index of row from the ith index whose address I want to calculate, and lowest index of column from jth index whose address I want to calculate. So j minus lc and I minus lr, that will be there. Okay, it means I is for row, so I minus lowest row and j minus lowest column. So that will be there in both the formula. B plus S will be there in both the formula. One change is there, and what's that change? The change is C represents number of columns and R represents number of rows. So if we are working with row measure implementation, we have to multiply number of columns with I minus LR, and if we are working with column measure implementation, we have to multiply number of rows with J minus LC. So you can say where we are subtracting the row index, there we will multiply with column number of columns. Where we are subtracting the column index, there we will multiply with number of rows. Number of rows will be multiplied in column measure implementation and number of columns will be multiplied in row measure implementation. So I hope these things you understood, and you will easily calculate, you can easily calculate the address of any location. Let's try it out with this one, because we are having already the address. So we know the base address is 1000. Let's calculate the address of 2, 3. Okay, let's calculate the address of 2, 3 because it's row measure implementation. So let's calculate the address of 2, 3. What will be the address of 2, 3? So base address is 1000 and each location is of 4 bytes. Let's see number of columns. So there are 5 columns. I is 2 and lowest row index is 0. Okay, plus J is 3 and lowest index of column is also 0. So if we'll work on this formula, it would be as 1000 plus 4, and if we say here 5 into 2, 5 to the 10 plus 3, that makes it 30. So let's see, that will be 1000 plus 4 into 30, right? Now what will be 13 4s are 52, right? So that will be 1052. So let's see, 2 index for row and 3 index for column will be 1052. Let's check it out. 2, 3, right? It is 1052. So I hope you understood how this formula works. I just tried it out for the current value that was given over there, for the current array that was given over there. Similarly, there is a formula for column measure implementation as well. But to understand this, let's see 2 questions. These 2 questions are part of your book. They are unsolved questions. So there are some solved questions as well, which is solved for you. You can go through it, you can understand. And in case of any doubt, you can simply ask to me. Definitely you can ask to me. Of course, I have given you a link. You can ask question on that link, that form, but it's not like frequently I am visiting to that form, and it's not easy for me to always know who have asked the question. So the better alternative is you can ask the question, whatever question you want to ask, you can ask it where? As the Q&A forum provided by your TeachNext platform, or every week I am going to have, except this week, I told you, except this week, every week I am going to have a live session. Okay, so in that live lecture we are going to discuss your problem, so please attend those live lectures so that you can raise your problems and we can resolve it. Okay, so let's proceed and let's see what this question says. In an array of real numbers, array ARR 2525, ARR 11 is stored in location 1000. Okay, find the address of array 1212. Okay, so because we are starting with 1, so base address is already there. Base address here is 1000. Okay, the next thing to know is about how many columns or how many rows are there. So to calculate the number of rows, I told you UR minus LR plus 1. So if it is starting with 1 and they have mentioned like this, definitely it will be 25, but you can check it out. 25 minus 1 plus 1 will be 25 itself. So number of rows here is 25, number of columns also here is 25. Okay, now the index for which we want to calculate I is 12 and j is also 12. Okay, one more thing, a lowest row is 1 and lowest column is 1. Okay, when you are dealing with your examination questions, you can simply write them their complete name, base address, row and everything like that. So you have seen the formula for address of ij. So let's see address here, row major implementation. One more thing, size is 4 bytes. So address of here ij is 1212. Address of 1212 will be base address plus size. Now within bracket I told you I minus LR, okay, plus j minus LC, and because we are working with row wise, so we will multiply it with number of columns. So let's work on it. So what was the base address? 1000. So base address was 1000. Size here is 4. Okay, number of columns is 25. I is 12 minus 1 plus j is 12 minus 1. Okay, now address of it will be, let's see, 1000 plus 4, of course 4, and here if we will multiply it will be 25 into 11. Okay, 25 into 11 plus 11. Now if you will multiply 25 with 11, what will be the output? It will be 275 plus 11. Okay, and if you will add this up, plus 4 into 275 into 11 is 286. Okay, just for a help, 286 into 4, right? So 286 into 4, that is 1144. So it is 1000 plus 1144, and that will result into 2144. So address of array at 12th I and 12th j will be 2144. Okay, I hope you understood this question. Okay, let's proceed with the next one. Now the second question over here is asking you, it's not asking about any address. This is very interesting part. Okay, both of them are the board examination question. So it's not like they will always ask you about a specific address. Sometimes they will give you the address and they will ask you about the order. And let me tell you, whenever they ask you about the order, the number of rows and number of columns are same. Okay, so you only need to tell about the order of it. So, and of course they have given you as hint as well, AMM, that means both are same. So M is the order, definitely, which we have to calculate. So few things that are given over here. First of all, size is given, which is 4. The next thing that is given over here is the base address. Base address is 1500. Another thing, they have given the address of 4-5 location. Already address is known to us, that is 1608. Okay, now we need to calculate, okay, we need to calculate about the order, and for that we are working with column measure. So if we calculate the number of columns, then we will come to know about the order, because number of columns and number of rows will be same over here. Okay, so let's see what is the formula for number of columns. So address of ij, you can see I and j here is 4 and 5, so I is 4 and j is 5, and the address of ij is also given. So now base address plus size, now within bracket, first of all I minus lr plus j minus lc, and because we are working with column measure, we will work with number of rows, so we will get the number of rows over from here. Let's fill the values. Address of ij is given 1608 is equals to base address is given, that is 1500, size is given, that is 4. Now I minus lr, I is 4 and lowest row lr is 1, so I is 4, L is 1, so 4 minus 1 plus r, which we have to calculate, and j is 5 and LC is also 1, so 5 minus 1. Okay, so if we will work on it, it will be 1608 is equals to 1500 plus 4 within bracket, 4 minus 1 is 3 plus 5 minus 1 is 4, so that will be 4r. Okay, so 1500 we can take this side, so that will become 1608 minus 1500, okay, is equals to 4th is a 12 plus 4 4 is a 16r. Okay, so if you are going to subtract that, it's going to come as 108 is equals to 12 plus 16r. Okay, so 12 will come to this side, so that will become 108 minus 12 is equals to 16r, or you can also write it as 16r is equals to 108 minus 12, that will be 96, and we know 16 6 are 96, so r is equals to 6. Hence the order of the matrix is 6 cross 6. Got that? So it's not necessary that they will always ask you about the address, sometimes they can ask you about the order as well. So I try to deal with both type of questions. There are few more questions that are given in your book, you can practice on them, and in case of any doubt, definitely you can raise that doubt as your Q&A forum, in your Q&A private forum, or you can of course raise that question as your on your query link. But in case if you are asking on query link, it will take time to me to see that, and definitely it will take time to tell you the output, or you can raise the question in your live lectures as well. So students, that's it for today's video lecture. Hope to meet you in the next video lecture. Till then, thank you and have a nice day.